Good morning, friends. Good morning. Martha Creek here, marthacreek.com to contact me and to send emails or anything in the world that I can do to benefit you in any way. I'm remembering our beautiful friend, Reverend Lenore Scott, today as we move toward Mother's Day. And I'm imagining she was a mother figure to many, not only her own children, family, grandchildren, great grandchildren, those of Reverend Ron's family too, which was her own family, and me as a family, and many of you, and those of you she served throughout her life. So I do this in honor of her specifically and of all mothers, and what it took mentally, physically, psychologically, spiritually, every way to serve in the role of mother. And the topic that I picked is solace. Solace. And regardless of the mother we had, we definitely had some solace at some point or another. And we have actually been that for others, whether we've biologically mothered or not, that solace is a part of my divine call, and I believe that of all of us, male, female, all all aspects of our humanity. So a poem and a writing from a book called Consolations, Solace, and a poet David Whyte inspired me, and I intended to share this at her memorial, and we had so many blessings of sharings that there wasn't um, the space for it there. So here we go with this. Solace is the art of asking the beautiful question of ourselves, of our world, and of one another, often in fiercely difficult and unbeautiful moments. We seek solace. A part of us that just has to have some relief, to find some clarity in discombobulated times and confusing times, bewildering times, times of suffering. Solace is what we must look for and do look for when the mind bear the pain, cannot bear the pain alone, the loss or the suffering that is inevitable, that will eventually touch every life in one form or another, and even in every endeavor, not just in life's losses, deaths, and births, but in our endeavors, our goals, and unmet goals, and disappointments. When our longing does not come to fruition, and specifically does not come to fruition in a form that we had in mind or that we can even recognize or value, or when it doesn't turn out like we hoped, like we visioned, like we prayed for, like we imagined. And certainly to seek solace when people we know and love disappear, when there's death or divorce or distancing, and when hope must take a different form, when hope must take a different form than the one we have shaped for it. Solace, seeking solace. So, how do you find solace? What is solace to you? How does it come? It's described here in the writing as a spacious, imaginative home a spacious home, an imaginative, spacious home where we make this spacious, imaginative home where our disappointments and losses can go to be rehabilitated, and in some cases even welcomed home. The disappointments, the sadness, the losses, that there's a place here within me for them. They belong here too. So especially when life does not add up in any way, no way does it add up, we must turn to the part of us that is infinite, that is eternal, that is divine nature, higher consciousness, can see beyond the physical, and also to turn to the part of us that absolutely understands that we were not always going to get life's simple calculations, that we knew that suffering is part of our human learning processes, and that we're here to mother ourselves through these losses and human learning processes. And when possible, when we're able, having cared for ourselves, to offer some mothering to others, not like a biological mother, but in the mothering of our heart, a wholehearted mothering, and a wholehearted mothering from a higher consciousness. Solace is also found when we allow our innate nature, our inherent divine innate nature, our foundational wisdom to come forward. A part of us that already knows that it is mortal and that we must take leave, like everything else, we will. And that part can lead us at times when the mind is having difficulty, having trouble, having struggle, and in some ways thinks it cannot bear what it is seeing, what is happening, what it is hearing, and to turn toward our powers, our innate powers of faith, of love, of will, of understanding, of imagination, of strength, of power, of zeal, and then activate the part of us that's wise to know to tune in to the bird songs, for example. I got a bird feeder with a camera on it for my birthday a few months ago, and those birds there, just hearing the bird song, even if I can't see them, even if they're not on the feeder, I can hear them in the environment, in the atmosphere, and it brings me solace just to hear the bird song, to see the robins in the front yard, anything. Proof of life and how life goes on. And you don't have to look far to see mothering from those birds, how busy they are building their nest and bringing in those worms and bugs and things like that to feed those young when they are there. So, even as we're facing losses, death, even as we hear about death and disease and whatever is going on in the body, mind, heart, soul, spirit, there's also essence, infinite, eternal essence, the part that cannot be sick, the part that cannot have disease, the part that cannot die, the current of life moving on, moving through us and as us, and the understanding and the awareness that it's not who we are. It is our experience, and it's not who we actually are. So, as the current of life moves on, carrying what it carries, bearing what it bears, and even celebrating what we have, what we have had, and what we are being and what we are becoming. A life that we could not see or appreciate fully in this dimension, our own life, and certainly a life that we could not see or appreciate until it is gone sometimes. The depth of love, which I've heard before that the depths of grief is actually a measure of the depths of our love. And that seems very, very true for me. The more I grieve is the measure of how much I love, received, and gave love in that particular life. So to be consoled is to be invited onto a terrible ground of beauty, a terrible ground of beauty, a terrible ground of the depths of love, upon which our inevitable disappearance stands and their inevitable disappearance stands, and to live in both worlds. The knowing that it is for a time, and the knowing that now is the time. Now is where the beauty lies. So to stand there in that inevitable disappearing atmosphere and to tune in and awaken to a voice of solace, a voice that can soothe us, a voice that can touch the epicenter of our pain, a voice that knows the pain, that can share the burden with us, and then in some way emancipate us. Emancipate us, free us from some of that suffering, some of that burdening, some of that bearing of that weight, and lift us into the privilege, the high holy privilege of both life and death, happiness and sorrow, and both and are the realities of it, and both and are equally our gifted birthright. To mother ourselves, to console ourselves, and to call on the Holy Spirit, the source of all that is, for our actual mothering, our actual fathering too, because our humanly biological mothers and fathers could not meet all the needs that we have then, 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 or now, or in the future. So, even though solace is not a cure for the suffering, nor is it a made up state of mind, it is a participation, a co creation. Solace as a co creation, a participation. Solace as a direct seeing of the beautiful coming and going, appearance and disappearance, all of which we have always been a part of, all of which humanity has always been a part of. So, solace is not meant to be an answer, but an invitation into and through the door of the pain, the difficulty, the losses, into the depths of love, the depths of grief, the depths of suffering, and into an invitation into a simultaneous beauty, a simultaneous love, a simultaneous grace in a world that the strategic mind by itself cannot grasp. It certainly cannot make sense of it. So to look for solace, to seek solace, and from mothering figures or fathering figures, for mothering hearts or fathering hearts, wholeheartedness in all the human. To look for solace is to learn to ask more pointed, exquisitely pointed, and exquisitely fierce questions, to inquire, to contemplate. Questions that will reshape our belief systems, questions and answers that will reshape our paradigms, our worldviews, and our BS belief systems. And will also reshape our emotional aspects, our psychological aspects, and even reshape our bodies. And certainly will reshape our relationship to self and our relationship to others. So it's beginning again now. So standing in losses, most people I know didn't have the mother they prefer. And even if they say, oh no, I had the best mother in the world, there was still hurts of the mother. There was disappointments and losses, frustrations, upsets, traumas from the mother, the relational dynamic of the mother. So to stand in this reality, to stand in and not be overwhelmed by it, how to let it be and not be overwhelmed by it, to have the traumas, to have the losses, and them not have us. And in doing this, and in mastering this, and developing mastery in this, we become more and more useful, more and more generous, more and more compassionate, and even perhaps more earthly good. So, how will you bear the inevitable losses? How have you bared the inevitable losses of your own humanity up to this point? How will you provide solace to the inner family of your own being, your internal family system? And then through your own healing reconciliation to be a source of solace in the external family system, humanity. And how will you endure the inevitable losses that we're sure to experience with our relationships and our attachments and our heartstrings to so many people and things that we love here, of all the things that accompany us, knowing the inevitability of an ending. And how can we endure the memories of that, even for years to come, and prepare ourselves spiritually through our practice to do everything we can to get some glue in the cracks of our own human heartedness and to stay as much on a solid foundation of being for whatever the future holds and whatever the future unfolds. And above all, how can we shape our life equal to and as beautiful and as astonishing as a world that actually birthed you? The world that birthed you and birthed us all. To bring you into the light, to bring me into light, to bring me and you into being. And then, just as we may feel like we're just beginning or just kind of figuring it out, to understand and accept in a moment of time, it will be taken away. Solace. May you have it right here and right now, a deep, abiding comfort, a consoling of your own heart, mind, psyche, and being in every aspect of your being. I extend a blessing, I confer the wholehearted blessings from my heart and my heartstring to yours. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Solace. So be it. Amen. Let me know how I can support you. MarthaCreek.com.